Hello everyone, today I want to talk about sleep, the importance of sleep to maintaining the perfect life balance and how to get those recommended 8 hours. Hello everyone, as discussed in the intro, I want to talk about the incredibly overlooked topic of sleep, how important it is, what it can affect if you're not getting the amount of sleep that you need, and how to get it. So as always, I'm going to begin with a quote, and that quote is, "A well-spent day brings happy sleep." Leonardo da Vinci. Say that again. A well-spent day brings happy sleep. I'm excited to be able to bring a quote from the great Leonardo da Vinci, someone whose mind worked on overdrive. You know, he's a guy who was able to invent the helicopter almost 1,000 years before it was reinterpreted by Western science. And Leonardo da Vinci knew intrinsically, without the science, that sleep was really, really important. He noticed around him, and he noticed in himself, that when he lacked sleep and he went without sleep, he just wasn't the best version of himself. My personal story is really interesting because I think it was about 8-9 years ago, I was working in Sydney for one of Australia's biggest companies in a really high pressure corporate job, you know, box office, sort of driving an hour to work, driving an hour home, and I realised that I started to put on weight due to the stress of the job. So to fix this, what I decided to do was to wake up at 5 a.m, something I've done for a long, long time religiously, and work out. Now, I worked out every single morning and found out that over 6 months I hadn't lost any weight, yet I'd put in hours and hours and hours at the gym. When I started to research this topic and when I started to look a bit more into depth why I wasn't losing the weight, I realised that when I woke up at 5 a.m, I hadn't adjusted my nighttime schedule, so I was still going to bed at say 11. Therefore, I'd cut an hour's sleep out of my regime, my daily regime. And what modern science has said is that that hour sleep is more important to weight loss than the time I was spending at the gym, which absolutely blew my mind. So I went to sleep earlier, kept the gym ritual up, and I was able to shed the weight. And that was shocking to me that sleep has such a profound impact on the things we do daily. So what are the, 4 things that are really pivotal and can really affect your life by not getting enough sleep? Well, the first one is, the modern grind culture is killing us. If I see another Instagram post that says grind, you know, drink coffee, don't sleep, I think I'm gonna unfollow that person. I was thinking, what could I do? I could unfollow that person. Yes, that will show them. It's not true. This concept is really sold to you by marketers. Marketers know that if you're up, you know, you're watching late night TV, you're making irrational, impulsive decisions without sleep, you're buying things to make up for sleep, you're drinking energy drinks. It's crazy. You look at the top performers in the world and they get their sleep. And recently, to prove this, the Australian Olympic team was in big trouble for using sleeping pills before big events because they knew the advantage of sleep. And I think now that actually sleeping pills have been banned by the International Olympic Committee because sleep is so important to your performance. Number 2, 1 hour of sleep. Well, you need 1 hour of sleep for every 2 hours of learning. Now, when you sleep, your brain is defragging. You know when you used to get on your computer and defrag and it took all the files and allocated them in an easier to use situation so that the computer could learn and use that information more quickly? That's what your brain does. When you learn something new during the day, ultimately, you need to sleep in order to store it into the different areas of your brain where it can be usable and made sense of. So if you've just been to, for example, to a conference or a seminar, you've been reading some books or watching these videos, if you don't sleep for at least twice as long as you spent learning, you won't retain that information. That's mind-blowing, right? Number 3, dreams are lessons. Now, you might often wonder why you have dreams about something chasing you or you're in difficult situations. What dreams do is they actually predict scenarios that may happen to you that could be life-threatening and allow you to simulate scenarios. So for example, you might have a dream where you're running from a monster and you trip over. Or you turn left and you turn straight into the monster. You might even have that as a reoccurring dream. What the dream's trying to do is, if there was something chasing you, what would be the best way to evade it? Now, you've got to remember that for the first 750,000 years of human existence, Homo sapien existence, we weren't the number 1 predator on the block. We were being chased by bears, mammoths, lions, all sorts of stuff. So it was really important to us to know how to evade capture. Now, what's even cooler about this is that dreams don't run in real time. You know how sometimes you're dreaming for a few minutes and it seems like a few days in the dream. This is really important and pivotal and was shown by a recent study where rats were taught how to go through a rat maze. One group was allowed to sleep and one group wasn't allowed to sleep. So as you can imagine, the next day the rats that were able to sleep were able to do the rat maze much easier than the rats who didn't sleep. But the scientists didn't stop there. They then showed a new maze to those rats, and then that night they put electrodes on the rats' brains. Now the rats that are allowed to sleep actually replayed the map, or the maze if you will, in their mind. But something very special happened. Because they weren't limited by their little legs, they reran the maze hundreds of times in a minute, able to find the best way through the maze without waiting on their legs, because it's all up here, right? And finally, lack of sleep is responsible for 3 of the big modern illnesses in our country, in our world: depression, anxiety, and weight gain. Your body reacts poorly to you not looking after yourself, and it manifests it through things like depression, anxiety, and weight gain. So many people could lose so much weight just by sleeping, and it sounds ridiculous. Like, yes, no one can sell you the ab roller or the diet plan on the late night TV. That's why you're not being told these things. But sleep is your #1 path to weight loss. Sleep it off. So how do you get better sleep? We understand, that sleep's important. How do we get it? Well, the bedroom is for sleep and sex only. It should be your sacred place. Those 2 things are the only thing that should happen there. You shouldn't have a 50-inch screen in your room. I know it's convenient, but remember, do the easy things, live a difficult life. Do the difficult things and live an easy life. Do the difficult things. Remove the lights, the TVs, the computers from your bedroom, and make it just about sleep. And don't go to bed unless you're going to have sex or you're going to sleep, because otherwise you train the brain to use the bed for things like work, or to thinking, or to problem solving if you're sending emails from your bed. Number 2, smartphones and laptop light have got to go. The light, so we all know that people on a farm wake up at the crack of dawn. Now, we have been designed by nature to have things what's called circadian rhythms, and they work on the cycles of the sun and nighttime. Your brain doesn't know the difference between sunlight and light from a smartphone. And every time you turn on that smartphone or the LED flashes during the light, your brain is picking up on these little light flashes. Now, it might not wake you up, but it will change you out of REM sleep, or change you into a different form of sleep, which isn't so restful. And you might say, but Brad, I don't get woken up by the LED of my light. Of course you don't. However, you still sense it. In the same way, when the light comes through our room, we don't actually see it, but we sense it. You are sensing these lights. Number 3, sleep rituals. So many people wake up in the morning and have 2 or 3 coffees because they want to wake up, but they don't do anything at night to help them go to sleep. Yet if you think about it, going to sleep effectively will mean that you probably don't need those 2 or 3 coffees in the morning. So set sleep rituals. Chamomile tea is an incredible thing to have before tea, but more importantly, going to bed at the same time every night. Set your internal circadian rhythms to know when to fall asleep. I now wake up at 5:02 without an alarm clock, simply out of ritual and discipline. Number 4, you'll never get a more rewarding amount of sleep unless you exercise. Sleep is needed to repair the body, and you'll sleep very, very well if you get exercise. Anyone who knows that they've had a really taxing day at work, where they've had to move lots of things, or anyone who's exercised knows that night's sleep is almost always excellent. Melatonin, this is something I've tried recently. It's a natural supplement that you can get from pharmacies, and within about an hour of taking it, you become incredibly drowsy. It's a great substitute for anyone using barbiturates or benzos to get to sleep, which is incredibly dangerous in the long term. Melatonin is something that I really recommend. It's in tablet form and is very inexpensive. Something you can do yourself: breathing exercises. Deep breath leads to relaxation. Relaxation leads to sleep. What a better time to practice your breathing. Deep breaths, get the the parasympathetic system happening before sleep, and you'll doze off. Second to last, this is a big no-no: caffeine. For some, in society, we tend to judge drugs very unevenly. So, for example, paracetamol kills 10 times as many people as MDMA or ecstasy around the world. However, we all have different opinions about ecstasy versus, say, paracetamol. But I want to start here with caffeine. I want you to think about, if you think caffeine is innocuous and it doesn't hurt anyone, and you can have 4 or 5 coffees a day, no problems, I want you to think back really carefully to the first time you ever had caffeine. Can you remember? I hope you can. I hope it hasn't been that long. I remember taking caffeine, I think it was about 15, 16, I had a cup of coffee, I was bouncing off walls. it was comparable to amphetamines. It really wasn't comparable to amphetamines. However, over time, it lost that, I guess, edge, and it just became sort of normal. Now, you ask any ice fiend on how they feel after having an ice, smoking some ice, they don't feel amazing. They just feel normal, plateaued. So don't measure how the drug affects you or makes you feel by its damages. Caffeine is a long-lasting substance. It is one of the #1 reasons in the world for anxiety. Stress and caffeine are the two #1 reasons for anxiety in the world. If you can remove caffeine, you're removing 50% of the problems. 1 coffee, 2 coffees a day if if you need to cut down, but that's it, max. It's a powerful drug, and unfortunately, one of the things about caffeine, I don't know if you've noticed this, is that as the results diminish, for example, its ability to get you excited and awake diminished, the side effects don't. So you won't be feeling amazing from a coffee like you used to, but you'll definitely feel jittery and you feel a little bit anxious, and that's unfortunately what happens with caffeine, is the side effects don't ramp down as the advantages do. And finally, late and big dinners are the no-no. Mediterranean countries have known for a long time, if you're going to have a big lunch, if you're going to have a big meal, have it at lunch. Digestion makes up for a huge percentage of your energy levels, and digesting is a big process. Now, having a big dinner just before bedtime or an hour or two before bedtime means 2 things. You're not going to be able to work off that energy, and secondly, your body's going to be more worried about digesting than sleeping. Sleep. Once you get this right, so many other parts of your life fall together. You've got more energy, more willpower, and more ability just to create the life that you really, really want. I can't wait to see you get some Z's and see you tomorrow. This is something to think about. Until then, goodbye.